Before I begin this lesson, I want to start off by giving all glory, honor, and praises unto Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rachakwadash, and double honors unto the elders and apostles of Great Millstone who taught us this truth. And a sincere shalom to the hopeful electors out there listening, learning, and or teaching in truth and sincerity. Shalom. So I was scrolling earlier, and I saw this article and the spirit got on me to do a lesson about it, because this is the same spirit that's on Eve, okay? And, really all these Babylonian women, they're all out of their minds, you know, but especially Eve, the so-called black woman, you know, being totally destroyed mentally, okay? To the point where Jake is avoiding the so-called black woman and going after other tribes, and even heathen women, But, just looking at the bigger picture, they're all out of their fucking minds, man. Even these Edomite women, though some of them might be slightly more submissive, but they are still off. Okay? When will our women be right? Okay, is in the kingdom. Okay, when the law, statutes, and commandments of Yahweh Bashim Shai are made the law of the land. When our women, because both Jake and Eve, the man and the woman, the Israelite man and woman are going to receive, the new bodies, okay? By Israelite men and women, we're talking about the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native American Indian women. Okay, they're going to receive their the new bodies, which we're going to have the laws written on our inward parts, so we'll never sin again. So all these laws that the scriptures talk about are going to be coming back in a major way. Okay, but as for now that we live in this wicked kingdom Babylon, the valley of the shadow of death, all right, this dark evil place, okay, with no light, okay, this is the type of confusion that's out here. All right, I'm just going to go ahead and read it. It says, after months of no luck, I dated a man who finally excited me until he ghosted me twice and left me furious. Okay, how many times have we heard this story from Eve and from heathen women as well? Okay, we hear this story. We've heard this story forever, every day since we were, as long as we could remember. These women making the same mistake, choosing the same guys over and over again. They're choosing the wrong dudes. They're choosing carnally. They're choosing based on worldly things. We were going into a camp. It was said, I believe by the elder, he said, these women, to impress these women, your hat and your shoes got to match. That's all they see. They don't see, the things that actually matter about a man. They look on outward appearance. The scripture says don't judge on outward appearance, and that goes for us as well. Okay, now, of course, as a man, you want a beautiful woman, but at the same time, we know the more important thing is the woman's spirit. What is she on? Okay, because you could get you a woman like this, and I guarantee you it's going to fuck you up. All right, unless you just, have her as a side piece, at a distance. Okay, but you bring a woman like this into your house, she's going to cause all type of issues, all type of problems. That's why she's only good for what? For recreational purposes. And that's why, because they keep getting used and used and used over and over again by the same man, by the same type of men that they are choosing, because these women lack the ability to choose. And there's nothing wrong with that, okay? Because the woman wasn't supposed to choose from the beginning. All right, the scriptures talk about arranged marriages, okay, where her father chooses the right man for her, right? A man who is a wise person, a wise man, not a fool. But these women, they choose fools. They choose men who are way out of their league, men who and they just don't get it. A man will pop a woman who he doesn't necessarily like, okay, because men are, our sex drive is much higher, all right, and that goes back to that polygamy, Okay, which polygamy is having multiple wives. Okay, that's how men were created to be, right? Women were created to only have one man. Okay, but since we live in Babylon, the land of confusion, okay, they teach women that men and women are exactly the same, and there's, you know, oh, well, if a man has more than one woman, it's a double standard. It's not a double standard. All these things that they have been taught, they can't get it out of their head, because it wasn't given to them to understand, man. So I'm making this video just, the point of the video is showing you that these women are truly insane, okay? And there's no way to explain it to them otherwise, okay? Your best bet is to find you a young woman who was raised up right and just put up with her for now, because even if she was raised quote unquote right, she, none of these women are going to be perfect on this side, and we're not perfect either. But we know that the woman is the weaker vessel, man. And Esau has created a world where he has given women overmuch liberty to destroy themselves. And that's why you have all these women out here with, triple digit body counts, and that's being the norm. That's why you have 80% of the women dating the top 20% of men. And some say even more, even less than that, the top 10% of men. That's why when you go on these dating apps, all right, it's always just a money trap for men. It's just trying to get you to pay money to get your profile recognized. And then you talk to all these women, and then just a few of them respond to you because it's rigged, man. That's the way Esau has set it up. Okay? And so you've got the so-called white man system set up to destroy these women's heads. And then you've got the fact that these women aren't strong enough to really fight against it mentally or spiritually. Okay, so you got to understand that, to have a woman on this side is it's going to come with a lot of heartache and headache, man. All right? Our woman is not going to be with us, and women in general ain't going to be with us until the kingdom, man. Until Isaiah 4:1, actually, because it's going to happen on this side through Jacob's trouble. When Jacob's trouble happens, feminism is going to be completely destroyed overnight. Okay, when all hell breaks loose, when the economy goes down, and when it goes back to just pure survival mode, these women are going to realize, okay, they did need a man all along. Okay, but they're not going to learn. They're not going to do it on their own, man. It's going to be through Yahweh Bahashim Yahushai, literally snatching them off that pedestal that they're on. Okay, I want to grab Proverbs 26:11. It says, as a dog returneth to his vomit, so a fool returneth to his folly. That's right, man. These women, they'll make a mistake with one man, and then they'll go back and create the same mistake again and again and again and again and again, to the point where that's their norm now. All they know is shooting out of their league for guys that are way above them. And then they continue to do that over and over and over again, and they develop this hatred towards men. Just because the small group of men they're dating treat them like shit. All right? Because those guys never loved you. Those guys just wanted you for sex. And you couldn't figure that out. You did figure it out, but then you weren't strong enough to say, okay, let me learn. No, you continue doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. That's the definition of insanity, right? Didn't Albert Einstein say that? Right? So basically, that's what they do. And no matter how much you explain it to them, their mind is set that they deserve this guy who's way up here. And all the other guys below that, they invisible, they don't exist. They're not even worth my time. Right? Verse 12, seest thou a man wise in his own conceit? Right? These women are wise in their own conceit. They think they know everything. They think they got it. They think we're the problem. It says there is more hope of a fool than him. Right? You see? Because at least a foolish person has a chance to learn. Someone that can admit that they're a fool. These women are what? Allergic to accountability. You can't tell half of these women nothing, especially Eve, man. Eve doesn't want to be told that she's wrong. Eve doesn't want to be corrected. That's what these women lack, is discipline, the ability to be corrected. Okay? And so it's not going to happen on this side, man. We just got to wait till Isaiah 4:1, man. Just keep dealing with these women for recreational purposes only. You know, unless you find you a halfway decent one, then you could deal. All right? But other than that, man, you are basically dealing with a scorpion, man. Like the scriptures say. Let's get that. This is Sirach 26 and verse 7. An evil wife is a yoke shaken to and fro. A yoke is those things they used to put around the slave's neck. Yoke of iron. Let's look it up real quick just so y'all can see what I'm talking about. All right, you put this around a slave's neck and they weren't able to move around, you see? Or they weren't able to do what they wanted. They had to like stand up, right? So you could imagine if this guy tried to rest, that yoke would fuck his neck up, right? And it's also that it could be used like, you know, to control him, you know. But y'all get the point, man. It's a chain. It's slavery, man. Being with a wicked ass woman is slavery. All right. It says, he that hath hold of her is as though he held a scorpion. Exactly, man. And that's what a lot of you brethren out there got to learn the hard fucking way. Is when you deal with these women, you are dealing with a scorpion. You're dealing with a predator, with a monster. Okay, not all of them. If the shoe fits, wear it. But you gotta always be careful with these women, man. Okay, because they have that mindset and nothing is gonna change it until it's literally gonna take the collapse of Esau, Edom, the so-called white man's kingdom. It's gonna take this kingdom going to complete shit to the edge of collapse for these women to finally snap out of that feminism, man. That's what it's going to take. Okay, so don't think that you could turn a hoe into a housewife. Don't think that you're going to be able to change these women, man. Okay, you cannot change them. You got to find one that's halfway decent. And if she's willing to work with you, you can kind of train them up sometimes. But that's as far as that's going to go, man. That's why Paul went so far as to say that it's better to not marry at all. If you have the strength, if the Lord gave you that ability. All right? Because these women, they weren't given that ability. Like, see, us men, we have the ability to recognize that we have been lied to our entire life and completely change the way we think, completely change our attitudes, our habits, our ways of mind, to have integrity, right? To look beyond physical appearance, to look beyond emotion and go into the realm of logic. Okay, and that's why the Lord created the woman for her purpose and the man created the man for his purpose. All right, this is Job 39:17. Because the Most High hath deprived her of wisdom, neither hath he imparted to her understanding. And that's okay, man. Women aren't supposed to have wisdom. Women aren't supposed to be on the same level as men, because the Lord created what? Hierarchy. The woman's job is to be that nurturing, emotional comfort, right? That's why a warm woman's smile always lights up a man's day, right? We love nothing more. Hey, let's get that precept, man. Let's get it real quick, man. This is Sirach 36:22. The beauty of a woman cheereth the countenance, right? That's your facial expression, right? You see a beautiful woman, it lights you up. It says, and a man loveth nothing better. That's right. So that's what the woman was created for, man. The woman was created to be a comfort, a pillar of rest, right? The scriptures talks about a pillar of rest. Sirach 36:24. He that getteth a wife beginneth a possession. Right. And again, that's another point. These women don't want to understand that they are a possession to the man because they want to be themselves equal to a man. Okay, that's like us trying to say that we are equal to Yahushai. As men, we are not equal to Yahushai, man. Yahushai is the only man who is able to beat the game and defeat death, man. Okay, defeat, come into this world in a sinful flesh and overcome it and keep the law perfectly. We are not strong enough to do that, man. So it's through Yahushai that we receive salvation, so we are under Yahushai, man. That's why we are considered the wife of Yahushai, like a woman. We are a woman to Yahushai, us men of the elect. Lord's will be of the elect. So if we have no problem submitting to Yahushai, you women should have no problem submitting to us, because we are your lords. We were created to be your leaders, man. Okay, this is why we're stoic and you're emotional, because you need to follow our leadership and use those emotions the way the Lord intended. Not for you to go out there with all this freedom to go fuck your life up, man. That's why you got women in their 30s making articles like this, acting like they know something, sipping casually on a glass of some type of liqueur or whatever the fuck, some type of martini or whatever, some alcoholic drink, like, oh yeah, look at me, I'm so smart. But you couldn't figure it out after the first 100 times you got fucked over, that you're not on that guy's level and you never will be. And now every time you do that, you're lowering your value and you're lowering your ability to pair bond, and you're becoming less valuable as your standards go up even higher. That's the pure definition of insanity. All right? But yeah, man, the woman is a possession. Back in Sirach 36:24, a help like unto himself and a pillar of rest. So that's part of a woman's job, is to aid the man in rest, because the woman was created for the man, not the man for the woman. And that's why these women can't find purpose. They do all these jobs, they get these careers, they get fucked by the same dudes over and over again that don't care about them, and they end up single and lonely and working at a grocery store until they drop dead somewhere. Okay, that's the path that was laid out for them. Okay, but little did they know, they would have been a lot more fulfilled if they had just settled down with a man who's on their level. May not be the most attractive, tall guy ever, but he's decent in physicality, but his wisdom was high. And they came together, built a family. If she was wise, she would let him get other wives as well to help her out around the house. And everybody becomes a family. That man becomes a big family, leaves a legacy behind. Now she has all these children and family members to love on until she dies peacefully at the house, not working herself to death for a corporation that could give a rat's ass about her. But that's the mindset they have, you see? Okay? So, hierarchy. Okay, like I mentioned earlier, 1 Corinthians 11:3. But I would have you know that the head of every man is Hamashiach, Yahushai. So the head of a man, so our leader is Yahushai, right? We are like a woman to Yahushai, man. There's nothing wrong with being a woman. There's nothing wrong with being under somebody, man. The person that's over you is somebody that's better than you. That's your leadership. That's who you're supposed to look to. Okay? You women understand hierarchy when you go to a job and you will lick boots for your boss, but you can't understand hierarchy in the house because you decided to listen to the serpent, the same serpent who's likely head over you at the job. Okay, so you women don't make sense, man. Okay, you weren't given that spirit of wisdom, man. Okay, but those of you women out there who are of the elect, you're going to listen to this message and you're going to repent and you're going to receive the wisdom, knowledge, and understanding of the Bible. and you're going to change. You're going to put in a real effort, and the Lord is going to have mercy on you. All right? But it says, and the head of the woman is the man, right? The head of the woman is the man, right? So just like our head is Yahushai, you women, we are your head. We are your leader. We are your lords. That's why Sarah called Abraham Lord, right? It says, in the head of Mashiach Yahushai is the Most High, whose name is Yahweh. Okay? So it's that order. Yahweh, the Heavenly Father, his son Yahushai, the man, then the woman, and the children. Right? That's another thing. They put the children, they have the children being all disobedient in the house. Right? The so-called white man will make it to where if you beat your children and try to teach them, they take your children away because they want to teach your children. And they know with all these advertisements and cartoons and bullshit that's out there and influences, your child is going to want to act like a demon. And when you whoop his ass, that's their cue that, oh, he's trying to teach him different than the system. So let's take the child away. Right? Hey, it's the same thing with these women, man. If these women act crazy, all they got to do is call the police and say you hit them even if you didn't. And you get thrown in jail, man. You see? Because it shows that you're not adhering to the fucked up system that they set up, man. All right? But I do got a few more precepts I want to go into. Proving the point, man, that women need leadership. Okay? Let's see what we got here. Sirach. This is Sirach 7. And we're going to go ahead and start at verse 24. It says, Hast thou daughters? Have a care of their body, and show not thyself cheerful toward them. Right? Be very strict on your daughters. Don't be smiling and joking with them and spoiling them. Right? What do they do here in America? They teach you to spoil your daughters, call them a princess, call them a little queen. You know, be extra strict on the boy, and then the girl, let her do whatever the fuck she wants, and teach her that, oh, you're a princess, and you know, what else did they tell her? You deserve this, you deserve that. It's like, nah, man, it's backwards. That's confusion. You got to be extra strict, man, because, you know, you're sending your daughters into a world that's designed to flip their head upside down, right? And then on top of that, the woman is what? The weaker vessel, right? So if the woman's the weaker vessel, she's not strong enough like a man to really go against the grain. She's more of a follower. And that's okay, because the Lord set up what? Hierarchy. The woman is supposed to follow by nature. But in this kingdom, because of her nature, these devils, Esau, he uses that against the woman to fuck her up. Okay? You know? And the woman being, you know, overmuch masculine and overmuch in whoredoms, cause Esau did that to destroy the family unit of the so-called black family. The so-called black, Latino, Native American Indian family. In order to, for many purposes, man. Okay? But of course, to make more money, right? And to keep the family broken apart. All right? You know? But anyway, that's besides the point. Back to the scripture. It says, verse 25, Marry thy daughter, and so shalt thou have performed a weighty matter. Right? It's very weighty, the decision-making process. Look, a woman is supposed to be one man. What do these women do? Oh, you gotta go through your whole phase first. That's fucking backwards, man. You're not supposed to be a hoe. You're supposed to pick one man that's the best match for you for life. The perfect balance. And you women just don't have that decision-making process, man. You don't know how to judge a man. Because first of all, you're not a man. You're not on that level. So how can you judge someone who's over you? You know? That's like somebody that's new to the truth looking at a bunch of elders and being like, that one's the wisest one. How the fuck would you know? You're not even an elder. You see? But it's like, that's the world of Babylon, right? So it says, Marry thy daughter, And so shalt thou have performed a weighty matter, but give her to a man of understanding. Right? It didn't say give her to a 6'6" guy, give her to an athletic guy, give her to a guy with charisma, give her to a guy with all this money. Give her to a man understanding. Now, a man of understanding is going to have some of those qualities, but he's not going to be the woman's first choice oftentimes. Okay, but when she chooses, look what happens. Okay, so this is why the decision-making process was left up to the father. Hast thou a wife after thy mind? Forsake her not. Okay, but that's going into something else. So now we go into Numbers 30:2. And I thought this was interesting. So I want to read this. Numbers 30:2, it says, if a man vow a vow unto Yahweh, or swear an oath to bind his soul with a bond, he shall not break his word. He shall do according to all that proceedeth out of his mouth. So that's the standard. You're a man, you make a promise to Yahweh, you better keep it. Verse 3, if a woman also vow a vow unto Yahweh, and bind herself by a bond, being in her father's house in her youth, right? So a woman makes a promise to Yahweh, but she's living with her father. What does it say? And her father hear her vow and her bond, wherewith she hath bound her soul, and her father shall hold his peace to her, then all her vows shall stand. Right? So if a woman is living with her father, she makes a promise to the Lord, and her father approves and doesn't say nothing, then she better keep that vow. And every bond wherewith she hath bound her soul shall stand. Verse 5. But if her father disallow her in the day that he heareth not any of her vows or of her bonds wherewith she hath bound her soul shall stand. And Yahweh shall forgive her because her father disallowed it. Right, so she makes a vow, she makes a promise, and her father hears it, and he's like, nah, this girl's not going to be able to keep that promise. And he says, nah, I don't agree with that. Right? Then the Heavenly Father, Yahweh, is going to forgive her because her father disallowed her. Right? He didn't let her make that promise because the father has better judgment. The father is the leader of the woman until she gets what? A husband. You see? So the woman is always under a man's leadership from the day she's born to the day she's married with her husband. Okay? The woman is always under a man because she does not have the spirit of wisdom, man. She can't be out there doing her own thing independent. An independent woman is an oxymoron. It doesn't exist. Only in this confusion city, Babylon. Okay, only in this wicked, evil, upside down world of darkness, they let women do whatever they want. Okay, but the Heavenly Father is not going to hold her to that standard. Because he knows, the Lord knows that these women just can't think for themselves, man. Because he didn't create them to think for themselves. Verse 6, and if she had at all an husband, and she vowed or uttered aught out of her lips wherewith she bound her soul, and her husband heard it, and held his peace at her in the day that he heard it, then her vow shall stand, and her bonds wherewith she bound her soul shall stand. Right? So if she, instead of being with her father, let's say she has a husband, and she vows to the Lord, and her husband doesn't say anything, that means, okay, well, I agree, you could keep that vow. Then the vow stands. Verse 8, but if her husband disallowed her on the day he heard it, then he shall make her vow which she vowed, and that which she uttered with her lips wherewith she bound her soul of none effect, and Yahweh shall forgive her. Right? So if the husband's like, hey girl, don't make that promise to the Lord, that's not, you can't keep that for whatever reason he decides, then Yahweh's not going to hold her to it. Because he knows that, okay, her husband has better judgment, and her husband is the leader that I set up over her. So it's all good. So yeah, the man has more responsibility. The man has to make tougher decisions. The man has to carry the main burden. Okay, and so that's why the man is given power over his woman, and his woman is a possession. Okay, but that doesn't mean you treat the woman like shit. That means you're her leader. Okay, just like if you have an animal, you lead the animal, you don't just beat the shit out of it. That's not what we preach. But someone stupid and simple that's talking shit might say that. Okay, but no, it's all according to what? Hierarchy and order. Our leaders take great care of us, man. Our spiritual leaders and fathers, right? The elders of Great Millstone, right? But we're under them. Okay, that's another analogy. We're under them, and without them, we wouldn't know what we know, man. Okay, just like without Yahushai, we wouldn't receive salvation. Okay, but following the way of Yahushai, okay, we got to go through a lot of heartache and headache, but in the end, it all makes sense. And see, that's the way the woman ought to look at the man leading her. Is like, look, you may not always like what your man says, but in the end, you're going to see that it made sense, because you can't see it from this angle because you don't have that foresight. You don't have the ability to see afar off like your husband. And so you wives, you women out there watching, you need to submit to your husbands. All right, if you got fathers, submit to your fathers, your mother and father. If you got a husband, submit to your husband. And that's how you please Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. All right? But for you men watching, hey, these women ain't going to get it yet, man. Okay, until Isaiah 4:1 kicks in fully, right? Because it's here on a very low level, kind of, very, very low level. Not very much at all, but it's getting to that point where things are about to shift, man. You got this economic collapse looming. You got a lot of women out there homeless. They still talking shit, homeless in the back of their car, still acting like they're the prize and shit like that. But it's going to come a time when the Lord Yahweh Bashem Yahushai is going to humble these women. Okay, and that's the Isaiah 4:1, which I'm going to get it real quick. We'll close on that. It says, and in that day 7 women shall take hold of one man, saying, we will eat our own bread and wear our own apparel. Only let us be called by thy name to take away our reproach. Right, so they're going to say 7 women are going to be willing to share a man and submit to him fully. Nowadays women, they ain't willing to submit. They make fun of men that say, you want to go 50-50? But look what it says here. We will eat our own bread and wear our own apparel. Only let us be called by thy name. So, hey, they're not even going to be trying to do they're not going to have a problem going 50-50 on that day, man. They're not going to have a problem. They're not going to be asking you to take them out to eat to some expensive ass restaurant. They're going to humble way the fuck down, right? And it says, only let us be called by thy name, which is sex, which is marriage, to take away our reproach, right? Their reproach, the disapproval, the embarrassment, the ugliness of who they have become. Okay, they're gonna see the what they become as a reproach, man. Let's get that word real quick. Isaiah 4:1 in the blue letter. Isaiah 4:1. The word reproach. Alright. H2781. Alright, there's the word. It means reproach, scorn, taunt, upon enemy reproach, resting upon condition of shame. There we go. That's the word I was looking for. Disgrace. Right? This shame, this disgrace that these females are. Okay? The only way they're going to get rid of that is by being willing to share and submit to a man. And that's it. Not demanding anything of him, but just his love and his leadership. That is what's coming very soon, man. But until then, man, hey, beware of these women, man. All right? Beware their wickedness and their folly, and understand that you gotta be wise when you deal with them. All right? But with that, I want to finish by giving all glory, honor, and praises unto Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Rachakwadash. Double honors unto the elders and apostles of Great Millstone who taught us this truth. And shalom to the hopeful elect. Shalom wa, abba babal. Shalom.